The Lumiere Restaurant's chandeliers flared as Johnny Depp, in tattered jeans and a bandana, faced Lauren Baxter's sneer. "You don't belong here," she scoffed, tossing his menu to a dingy corner table, her voice dripping with contempt. Johnny's eyes glinted, his voice a low drawl. "That's so," he said, pocketing a watch engraved with kindness. The dining room froze, guests whispering. Why was Lauren so cruel? What secret hid behind Johnny's calm? Dive into this gripping tale of justice and redemption. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more heart-pounding stories that shatter prejudice and spark change. Hit the bell, don't miss the next epic twist. The Lumiere Restaurant glowed like a diamond in Beverly Hills, its wide windows framing neon-lit streets where sports cars purred past, their engines a soft growl. Inside, crystal chandeliers cast a golden haze over velvet chairs and polished mahogany tables, a playground for the elite craving validation. Johnny Depp slipped through the glass doors, a shadow in a tattered black leather jacket, faded jeans clinging to his frame, and scuffed boots that echoed softly on the marble floor. His long dark hair hung loose, tangled, a red bandana tied carelessly around his neck, half hiding a faint scar. In his pocket, a pocket watch his grandmother's engraved with kindness ticked steadily, grounding the enigmatic actor and philanthropist who shunned Hollywood's dazzle. Johnny, here incognito, craved a quiet meal, but a flood of complaints, rude staff, discriminatory service, had pulled him to test his co-owned restaurant. He aimed for a corner table, hoping to vanish into the crowd, but the welcome he received was a razor-sharp cut of disdain. Lauren Baxter glided through the dining room, her tailored black dress hugging her frame, her brunette hair swept into a tight bun, her hazel eyes glinting with a pride that tipped into arrogance. Her polished smile was a mask, her badge a trophy of her reign at Lumiere. But her quick judgment of patrons was her true art. She spotted Johnny at the hostess desk, her gaze slicing over his bandana and boots, her lips curling into a smirk that screamed contempt. "Evening," she said, her voice dry as desert air, her smile vanishing like smoke. "You sure you're in the right spot? This isn't some roadside joint." Johnny's eyes met hers, his voice low, laced with his signature drawl. "Reckon I'm right where I need to be," he said, adjusting his jacket, the watch a quiet anchor. "Just a table, darlin'. Nothing fancy." Lauren's eyebrow arched, her voice dripping with mockery. "A table?" she scoffed, crossing her arms, her bun gleaming under the chandeliers. "Lumiere's exclusive, pal. Got a reservation? Or you just wandering in off the street?" Mia, a young waitress, hovered near a tray of wine glasses, her curly black hair loose, her uniform slightly wrinkled, her brown eyes widening as she recognized Johnny from a charity event. She bit her lip, staying silent, but her glance at Lauren flickered with unease, her hands fidgeting. A couple in tailored suits at a nearby table paused, their champagne flutes lowered, the woman whispering, "She's insufferable," her pearl necklace catching the light. Johnny's smile was faint, his voice steady. "No reservation," he said, his fingers brushing the watch in his pocket. "But I hear you've got tables free." "One'll do me just fine." Lauren's laugh was sharp, her voice cutting. "Free tables," she said, snatching a menu with a snap of her wrist. "Sure, but this place ain't cheap. And you don't look like you're packing a black card. Follow me if you're sure you can handle it." Harold, an elderly patron in a tweed jacket, watched from a corner table, his white hair combed neat, his blue eyes narrowing at Lauren's venom. "Utterly deplorable," he muttered to his wife, his fork clattering against his plate. Lauren strode through the dining room, her heels clicking, leading Johnny to the dimmest corner near the kitchen's clatter, where the clang of pots and muffled staff chatter drowned out the piano's melody. She tossed the menu onto the table with a deliberate thud, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Here you go," she said, her hazel eyes glinting. "Perfect for you. Don't expect me to hover, you're on your own." Johnny sat, his voice calm, almost teasing. "Cozy little spot," he said, the watch ticking softly, his bandana shifting as he leaned back. "Much obliged." "Lauren, you're a real peach." Lauren's smirk widened, her voice a hiss. "Don't get too comfortable," she said, leaning in, her bun gleaming. "Let's see if you can afford the breastics. Let alone dinner." Mia edged closer, her voice a whisper to another server. "She's gunning for him," she said, her eyes on Johnny, her tray wobbling. "He's not some nobody. She's got no idea." The couple in suits gasped, the man's voice low. "She's vile," he said, his cufflinks flashing. "He's taking it like a saint." Harold leaned forward, his voice gruff. "Mark my words. She's in for a reckoning." Lauren turned, her voice loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Check the prices before you order," she called over her shoulder, her smirk vicious. "Wouldn't want you washing dishes to pay the bill." Johnny opened the menu, his fingers tracing the watch, his comma fortress against Lauren's barbs. A folded note slipped from his jacket, a child's drawing from a hospital visit he'd made earlier, a reminder of why he shunned the spotlight. "Thank you, Mr. Johnny," it read, the crayon letters shaky. He tucked it back, his grandmother's kindness burning in his chest, urging him to stay steady. Lauren's scorn wasn't just personal. It was a betrayal of Lumiere's soul, a place meant to welcome all. The dining room buzzed, guests whispering, their eyes darting to Johnny's table. A woman in a sequin gown at a nearby table muttered, "She's humiliating him," her voice sharp. Her companion nodded, his voice low. "He's got more class in one finger than she'll ever have." Mia's hands trembled, her voice a hiss. "She's gonna regret this," she said, her eyes flicking to Lauren, who strutted back to the hostess desk, her smirk triumphant. Harold raised his wine glass, his voice a murmur. "Patience like that hides strength," he said, his wife nodding. "He's no ordinary man." The chandeliers flickered, the dining room a tinderbox of drama, Lauren's arrogance a lit match. Johnny's watch ticked, his grandmother's wisdom a guiding star, promising a truth that would shake Lumiere's gilded walls. The stage was set, and the spark of his identity, sharp, inevitable, would soon ignite a fire no one could ignore. The Lumiere Restaurant hummed with a brittle tension, the chandelier's golden light casting long shadows across the velvet-draped tables, amplifying the drama simmering in its dimly lit corner. Johnny Depp sat at his relegated table near the kitchen's clatter, his tattered black jacket slung over the chair, his red bandana loose around his neck, revealing a faint scar. The pocket watch in his jeans, engraved with kindness, ticked steadily, a quiet anchor as he scanned the menu, his dark eyes calm but alert. Lauren Baxter, her brunette bun still tight, moved through the dining room with a forced smile, her tailored black dress a stark contrast to her venomous demeanor. Her hazel eyes flicked toward Johnny, her earlier smirk now a thin line of irritation, his unshaken poise gnawing at her. The air buzzed, guests whispering, their glances darting to the corner table. Mia, the young waitress, hovered near a tray of glasses, her curly hair fraying, her brown eyes nervous but bright with silent support for Johnny. Harold, the elderly patron, sipped his wine, his tweed jacket creased, his blue eyes sharp, tracking Lauren's every move. Lauren approached Johnny's table, her notepad clutched like a weapon, her voice dripping with condescension. "Made up your mind yet?" she said, her pen tapping impatiently. "Or need me to read the menu for you? It's not exactly burger and fries territory." Johnny's gaze lifted, his voice low, laced with a playful drawl. "Think I'll manage," he said, pointing to a dish. "The truffle-crusted sea bass sounds good. Let's try that." Lauren's lips twitched, her voice a sneer. "Sea bass? That's $420, she said, leaning in, her bun gleaming. "Sure you didn't mean the side salad? It's more your speed." Mia, wiping a nearby table, winced, her voice a whisper to another server. "She's relentless," she said, her tray wobbling. He's not even flinching. Johnny's smile was faint, his voice steady. "Sea bass it is," he said, closing the menu, his watch ticking softly. "And a glass of your best red. Surprise me." Lauren's eyes narrowed, her voice sharp. "Best red?" she said, scribbling with a flourish. "That's $200 a glass. Hope you brought more than pocket change." Harold leaned toward his wife, his voice gruff. "She's begging for trouble," he said, his wine glass lowered. "That man's got steel in him." The couple in suits at a nearby table murmured, the woman's voice soft. "She's humiliating him," she said, her pearls glinting. Her partner nodded, his voice low. "He's handling it like a pro." Lauren turned, her voice loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "I'll put it in," she said, striding away, "but don't cry when the bill comes." She lingered at the kitchen door, deliberately chatting with the chef, her laughter forced, her eyes flicking to Johnny, expecting him to squirm. Johnny leaned back, his fingers brushing the child's drawing in his pocket, a crayon sketch from a hospital visit, a reminder of why he valued humility. He glanced around, catching sympathetic looks from other patrons, but his calm remained a shield against Lauren's barbs. The piano's melody drifted, but the kitchen's clatter drowned it out. A subtle jab from Lauren's choice of table. Mia edged closer, her voice a hushed plea. "I'm so sorry," she said, pretending to adjust a napkin. "She's like this with anyone who doesn't flash cash. You okay?" Johnny's eyes twinkled, his voice warm. "I'm just fine, darlin'," he said, his bandana shifting. Seen worse storms than her. Lauren returned with his wine, setting the glass down with a sharp clink, her voice mocking. "You're fancy red," she said, her smirk returning. "Try not to spill it on that jacket. Anything else, or you good playing high roller?" Johnny lifted the glass, his voice even. "All good," he said, taking a sip, his watch a quiet vow. "Tell the chef I'm looking forward to it." Lauren's smirk faltered, her voice a hiss. "Oh, I will," she said, spinning away, her heels clicking. She muttered to a coworker, loud enough to carry. "He's gonna choke on that bill, watch." The dining room buzzed. Guests shifting, their whispers growing. The woman in the sequined gown at a nearby table spoke up, her voice sharp. "She's making a fool of herself," she said, her companion nodding. "He's got more grace than this place deserves." Harold raised his glass, his voice a murmur. "Patience like that's rare," he said, his wife smiling. "He's biding his time." Mia lingered, her voice a whisper. "She's digging her own grave," she said, her eyes on Lauren, who now flirted with a VIP table, deliberately ignoring Johnny's order to prioritize theirs. The kitchen delay stretched, the sea base sitting under a warming lamp, Lauren's petty power play clear. The couple in suits leaned closer, the man's voice firm. "Someone needs to call the manager," he said, his cufflinks flashing. "This is beyond unprofessional." Johnny sipped his wine, his calm a fortress, the drawing in his pocket a reminder of bigger battles fought quietly. Lauren's taunts were a symptom of a deeper rot in Lumiere, a betrayal of its promise to welcome all. He caught Harold's eye, offering a slight nod, a silent acknowledgement of shared understanding. The chandeliers gleamed, the dining room a tinderbox, Lauren's arrogance a spark ready to ignite. The watch ticked, Johnny's grandmother's kindness a guiding light, urging him to wait for the perfect moment. The guests watched, their murmurs a rising tide, sensing a storm brewing, one that would expose Lauren's cruelty and reshape Lumiere's gilded heart. The Lumiere Restaurant thrummed with a charged undercurrent, the chandelier's golden light flickering across the velvet-lined dining room, casting a stark glow on the drama unfolding in its shadowed corner. Johnny Depp sat at his relegated table, the clatter of the nearby kitchen a faint hum. His tattered black jacket draped over his chair, his red bandana loose, revealing a faint scar. The pocket watch in his jeans engraved with kindness ticked steadily, a quiet compass guiding his unshaken calm. Lauren Baxter, her brunette bun fraying slightly, weaved through the tables, her tailored black dress creased, her hazel eyes glinting with a mix of irritation and smugness, Johnny's resilience a thorn in her pride. The air crackled, guests whispering, their gazes fixed on the corner table, sensing a storm. Mia, the young waitress, hovered near a wine station, her curly hair slipping free, her brown eyes darting between Johnny and Lauren, her hands fidgeting with a tray. Harold, the elderly patron, leaned forward at his table, his tweed jacket rumpled, his blue eyes blazing with disapproval, his wine glass forgotten. Lauren approached Johnny's table, her notepad clutched tightly, her voice sharp with mockery. "Still here," she said, her pen hovering, her bun catching the light. "Thought you'd have bolted by now. Ready to admit this place isn't for you." Johnny's gaze lifted, his voice low, laced with a playful edge. "Nah, I'm quite fond of the view," he said, gesturing to the bustling dining room, his watch ticking softly. "Food's taking a while, though. Kitchen okay?" Lauren's lips pursed, her voice a hiss. "Kitchen's fine," she said, her eyes narrowing. "But high-end dishes like yours take time. Not that you'd know." Mia, polishing glasses nearby, muttered under her breath. "She's stalling his order." Her voice a whisper to another server, her tray wobbling. "She's been chatting up that VIP table for 20 minutes. Harold's voice cut through, low but firm from his table. "Young lady," he said, his tweed jacket shifting as he stood. "You're treating this man like garbage. Show some respect." Lauren spun, her voice shrill, her bun loosening. Respect, she said, her hands on her hips. I'm doing my job, sir. Maybe you should mind your table. The dining room hushed, guests turning, their whispers swelling. The couple in tailored suits gasped, the woman's voice sharp. She's out of line, she said, her pearls glinting. Her partner nodded, his voice low. This is getting ugly. Johnny raised a hand, his voice calm, steady. Easy, friend, he said to Harold, his bandana shifting as he leaned back. She's just having a rough night. Let's keep it civil. Lauren's eyes flashed, her voice a sneer. Civil? She said, stepping closer, her notepad trembling. You're the one who doesn't belong here, playing like you can afford this. Why don't you save us all the trouble and leave? Mia's tray clattered, her voice a hiss. Lauren, stop it, she said, stepping forward, her eyes wide. He's a customer, same as anyone. Lauren's smirk returned, her voice vicious. Customer? She said, gesturing at Johnny's jacket. Look at him, Mia. He's a nobody trying to play big shot. I'm just being honest. The woman in the sequined gown at a nearby table spoke up, her voice cutting. Honest, she said, her earrings flashing. You're embarrassing yourself. Serve the man or get the manager. Harold nodded, his voice gruff. Listen to her, he said, his blue eyes fierce. You're making a spectacle, and it's not him who looks the fool. Lauren's cheeks flushed, her voice rising loud enough for the room to hear. A spectacle, she said, her bun unraveling. I'm protecting Lumiere's standards. People like him don't just waltz in here. The dining room was a pressure cooker, guests murmuring, their phones raised, capturing the escalating drama. The man in tailored suits stood, his voice firm. That's enough, he said, his cufflinks gleaming. Get your manager out here now. Johnny sipped his wine, his voice soft but piercing. No need to rush, he said, his eyes locking with Lauren's. But you might want to think about what standards really mean before you keep talking. Lauren's hands shook, her voice a snarl. Think, she said, leaning in, her notepad crumpling. I think you're a fraud, and everyone here knows it. Pay up and get out. Mia gasped, her voice a plea. Lauren, you're going too far, she said, her tray abandoned, her eyes pleading with Johnny, who remained a fortress of calm. The couple in suits whispered, the woman's voice urgent. She's unraveling, she said, her pearls catching the light. Her partner muttered, he's got her on the ropes. Harold raised his glass, his voice a murmur. That man's got more dignity than this place deserves, he said, his wife nodding, her eyes misty. Lauren stormed to the kitchen, her heels clicking, deliberately delaying Johnny's sea base further, her laughter with a chef a calculated jab. She returned, tossing a breadbasket onto his table with a smirk, her voice loud. Something to tide you over, she said, her eyes daring him to react. Unless you're ready to call it quits. Johnny took a piece of bread, his voice even. I'm in no hurry, he said, his watch a quiet vow. The child's drawing in his pocket, a reminder of bigger battles. The chandeliers glowed, the dining room a tinderbox. Lauren's cruelty a spark ready to ignite. Guests leaned in, their whispers a rising tide, sensing a reckoning. Mia's hands trembled, her loyalty to Johnny growing, while Harold's disapproval burned, his support a quiet anchor. Lauren's arrogance was unraveling, but the true storm, Johnny's identity, his power was brewing, poised to shake Lumiere's gilded heart to its core. The Lumiere Restaurant pulsed with a volatile energy, the chandelier's golden light casting stark shadows across the velvet-draped dining room, amplifying the electric standoff at Johnny Depp's corner table. Johnny sat with unshaken poise, his tattered black jacket slung over his chair, his red bandana loose, a faint scar visible at his throat. The pocket watch in his jeans, engraved with kindness, ticked like a heartbeat, anchoring his calm amid the storm. Lauren Baxter stood nearby, her brunette bun unraveling, her tailored black dress creased, her hazel eyes blazing with defiance, her earlier smugness now a brittle mask. The air crackled, guests whispering, their phones raised, capturing the drama's crescendo. Mia, the young waitress, lingered by a wine station, her curly hair loose, her brown eyes wide with tension, her hands clutching a tray. Harold, the elderly patron, gripped his wine glass, his tweed jacket rumpled, his blue eyes fierce with indignation. The dining room's pulse synced to the escalating clash. Lauren stepped closer to Johnny's table, her voice loud, cutting through the piano's melody. "You're still here," she said, her hands on her hips, her bun sagging. "I'm giving you one last chance, pay for that wine and go. Before you embarrass yourself further." Johnny's gaze met hers, his voice low, laced with a quiet intensity. "Embarrass myself," he said, leaning forward, his bandana shifting. "Seems like you're doing a fine job of that all on your own." The dining room gasped, guests leaning in, their murmurs a rising tide. Mia's tray trembled, her voice a hiss to a coworker. "She's gone too far," she said, her eyes on Johnny, who remained a pillar of calm. Lauren's face flushed, her voice a shriek. "You think you're clever," she said, pointing at his jacket. "Look at you. Nobody in this room buys your act. You don't belong here. And I'm done pretending you do." Harold stood, his voice booming, his tweed jacket flapping. "That's enough," he said, his glass thudding down. "You're a disgrace to this restaurant. Apologize to this man, now." Lauren spun, her voice venomous. "Stay out of this, old man," she snapped, her bun collapsing. "I'm protecting Lumiere's reputation from people like him." The couple in tailored suits stood, the man's voice sharp. "Reputation," he said, his cufflinks gleaming. "You're tanking it. Get the manager out here before you ruin this place." Johnny raised a hand, his voice steady, piercing. "No need to shout," he said, his eyes locking with Lauren's. "But you might want to rethink what reputation means. It's not about who looks the part. It's about who acts with decency." Lauren's hands shook, her voice a snarl. "Decency," she said, stepping closer, her notepad forgotten. "You're a fraud, and I'm calling it like I see it. Pay up and get out, or I'll have security drag you." Mia gasped, her voice a plea. "Lauren, stop," she said, stepping forward, her tray clattering. "You're making a fool of yourself. He's done nothing wrong." The woman in the sequined gown clapped, her voice clear. "She's right," she said, her earrings flashing. "This man's shown more class than you ever will." The dining room was a powder keg, guests murmuring, their phones flashing. The man in tailored suits pulled out his phone, his voice firm. "I'm calling corporate," he said, his fingers dialing. "This is unacceptable." Before Lauren could retort, the glass doors swung open, and Victor Grant, the manager, strode in, his gray suit impeccable, his salt and pepper hair slicked back, his green eyes scanning the chaos. His polished demeanor faltered as he caught the tension, his voice smooth but strained. "What's going on here?" he said, his hands clasped, his gaze flicking from Lauren to Johnny. Lauren's voice cracked, her hands flailing. "This guy's causing a scene," she said, pointing at Johnny. "He's got no reservation, no right to be here, and he's upsetting everyone." Harold scoffed, his voice gruff. "She's the one upsetting us," he said, his blue eyes blazing. "She's been harassing him since he walked in." Victor's eyes narrowed, his voice calm but sharp. "Lauren, step back," he said, his suit creasing as he approached Johnny's table. "Sir, I apologize for any misunderstanding. Let's resolve this quietly." Johnny leaned back, his voice low, commanding. "Quiet's fine," he said, his bandana shifting, his watch ticking. "But let's talk about why your staff thinks it's okay to judge a man by his boots instead of his character." Lauren's face paled, her voice a stammer. "He's twisting it," she said, her bun fully loose now. "I was just enforcing standards." Mia's voice broke through, bold but shaky. "Standards," she said, her tray abandoned. "You've been rude to anyone who doesn't look rich." "Lauren, it's not just him." The dining room roared, guests nodding, their whispers a chorus of agreement. The woman in the sequined gown spoke up, her voice firm. "She's right," she said. Her phone raised. "This place needs a wake-up call." Victor's jaw tightened, his voice strained. "Enough," he said, raising a hand. "Sir, I'll comp your meal. Let's end this now." Johnny's gaze hardened, his voice a quiet thunder. "Come my meal," he said, standing, his jacket swaying. "This isn't about a free dinner. It's about a culture that lets people like her decide who's worthy." "You're missing the point, Victor." The chandeliers flickered, the dining room a crucible of truth. Lauren's arrogance now a crumbling facade. Harold's eyes gleamed, his support unwavering, while Mia's courage surged, her loyalty to Johnny a quiet fire. The guests held their breath, sensing a revelation, a seismic truth about Johnny's identity, poised to shatter Lumiere's gilded hypocrisy and set its heart ablaze. The Lumiere Restaurant was a crucible of raw emotion. the chandelier's golden light pulsing across the velvet-lined dining room, illuminating the seismic tension radiating from Johnny Depp's corner table. Johnny stood tall, his tattered black jacket swaying, his red bandana loose, a faint scar glinting at his throat. The pocket watch in his jeans, engraved with kindness, ticked like a steady pulse, anchoring his unwavering calm amidst the storm. Lauren Baxter hovered near the counter, her brunette hair spilling from its ruined bun, her tailored black dress crumpled, her hazel eyes wide with panic, her defiance shattered. The air buzzed with anticipation, guests clutching phones, their whispers a chorus of shock and awe. Mia, the young waitress, stood rooted, her curly hair wild, her brown eyes blazing with admiration for Johnny's resolve. Harold, the elderly patron, leaned forward, his tweed jacket creased, his blue eyes alight with vindication, the dining room electric with the weight of an impending truth. Victor Grant, the manager, adjusted his gray suit, his salt and pepper hair slicked tight, his green eyes flickering with unease as he faced Johnny. "Let's keep the civil," he said, his voice strained, his hands clasped tightly. "I've offered to comp your meal. What more do you want?" Johnny's gaze was unyielding, his voice low, resonant. "What I want," he said, stepping forward, his bandana catching the light, "is for this place to remember why it exists. It's not about comps, it's about treating every soul who walks in here like they matter." Lauren's voice trembled, her hands ringing. "You're making this bigger than it is," she said, her eyes glistening, her dress sagging. "I was just doing my job, keeping the vibe right." Mia's voice cut through, sharp and bold. "Your job?" she said, her tray abandoned, her hands on her hips. "You've been bullying anyone who doesn't look like a movie star, Lauren. It's wrong and you know it." The dining room murmured, guests nodding, their phones capturing every word. The couple in tailored suits clapped, the woman's voice clear. "She's right," she said, her pearls glinting. "This man's exposing the truth." Harold raised his glass, his voice gruff. "About time someone did," he said, his blue eyes fierce. "This place has lost its soul." Victor's jaw clenched, his voice a hiss. "Enough," he said, his suit creasing. "Sir, you've made your point. Let's move on before this gets out of hand." Before Johnny could respond, Mia's radio crackled, and she answered, her voice low. "Yes, sir," she said, then turned to Victor, her face pale but resolute. "Mr. Grant, the corporate office is on the line. They're asking for Johnny Depp by name." The dining room froze, a collective gasp rippling through. Lauren's hands flew to her mouth, her voice a choked whisper. "Johnny Depp," she said, her eyes darting to Johnny, her face draining of color. "The Johnny Depp." Johnny's grin was slow, devastating, his voice calm but earth-shaking. "That'd be me," he said, adjusting his bandana, his watch ticking softly. "Co-owner of Lumiere. And you just showed me exactly how my restaurant's been treating its guests." The guests erupted, phones flashing, whispers exploding into a roar. The man in tailored suits laughed, his voice stunned. "He's the owner?" he said, his cufflinks gleaming. The woman in the sequined gown clapped, her voice triumphant. "She's done for." Mia's eyes shone, her voice a mix of awe and relief. "I knew it," she said, her hands steady now. "I saw him at that kid's hospital gala." Lauren staggered, her voice a sob. I had no idea," she said, her bun fully collapsed, her hands trembling. "Mr. Depp, I swear, I didn't mean." Johnny raised a hand, his voice firm but kind. "You didn't need to know who I was," he said, his eyes locking with hers. "You should have treated me like a human being, Lauren. That's the job. Not picking who's worthy based on a jacket." The dining room was riveted, guests murmuring, their faces a mix of shock and respect. The companion of the sequined gown woman whispered, "He's incredible." Her eyes wide, the man in tailored suits nodded, his voice low. "This is what real leadership looks like." Victor's face paled, his voice faltering. "Mr. Depp, I'll handle this," he said, his suit sagging. "Lauren's actions don't reflect Lumiere's values." Johnny's gaze shifted to Victor, his voice a quiet blade. "Don't they?" he said, his watch a vow in his pocket. "You've let this culture fester. That's on you, Victor." Harold stood, his voice resonant. "He's right," he said, his tweed jacket flapping. "This place needs a reckoning. And this man's delivering it." Mia's voice trembled, her loyalty clear. "You're changing everything," she said, her eyes on Johnny, her tray forgotten. "Thank you." Johnny turned to the crowd, his voice steady, commanding. "Lumiere's supposed to be a haven for everyone," he said, his bandana catching the light. "Not just the ones who look the part. We're fixing that starting tonight." The dining room cheered, glasses raised, guests clapping. The woman in the sequined gown smiled, her voice soft. "He's a legend," she said, her phone lowered. The man in tailored suits nodded, his voice firm. "This place just got its soul back." Lauren's shoulders slumped, her voice barely audible. "What happens to me?" she said, her eyes glistening, her arrogance shattered. Johnny's gaze softened, his voice calm but firm. "That's up to you," he said, his watch ticking. "But it starts with owning what you did. We'll talk." The chandeliers glowed. The dining room a crucible of truth unveiled. Mia's sword, Harold's support burned, and Victor stood exposed, his authority crumbling. Johnny's identity was no longer a secret, but the real transformation, his vision for Lumiere, was about to reshape the restaurant and Beverly Hills forever. The Lumiere Restaurant shimmered under the chandelier's radiant glow, the velvet-lined dining room now a sanctuary reborn, its air thick with the weight of a truth unveiled. Johnny Depp stood at the center, his tattered black jacket slung over his shoulder, his red bandana loose, a faint scar catching the light at his throat. The pocket watch in his jeans, engraved with kindness, ticked like a steady vow, its quiet rhythm grounding the actor-philanthropist who just reshaped his empire's soul. His dark eyes held a quiet triumph. Lauren Baxter's humiliation and Victor Grant's exposure, a turning point for Lumiere. Lauren lingered near the counter, her brunette hair spilling free, her tailored black dress crumpled, her hazel eyes red-rimmed, her arrogance replaced by raw vulnerability. The guests, their phones now lowered, buzzed with reverence, their whispers a chorus of newfound respect. Mia, the young waitress, stood by a wine station, her curly hair wild, her brown eyes glistening with pride for Johnny's stand. Harold, the elderly patron, sat tall, his tweed jacket creased, his blue eyes warm with approval, the dining room alive with a renewed pulse. Johnny turned to Victor, his voice steady, resonant. "You're stepping down," he said, his bandana shifting, his glasses catching the light. "Lumiere needs a leader who sees every guest, not just the ones with deep pockets. You're not that leader." Victor's gray suit sagged, his salt and pepper hair disheveled, his green eyes darting. "Mr. Depp, please," he said, his voice a strained plea. "I've run this place for years. I can change, I swear." Johnny's gaze hardened, his voice a quiet blade. "Years of letting bias fester," he said, his watch ticking softly. "That's not leadership, it's neglect. Pack your office. You're done." The dining room murmured, guests nodding, their approval palpable. The couple in tailored suits clapped, the woman's voice clear. "Finally," she said, her pearls glinting. "This place deserves better." Victor's shoulders slumped, his voice a whisper. "I understand," he said, his suit creasing as he turned, his footsteps fading toward the office, a fallen king. Johnny faced Lauren, his voice softer but firm. "You're not fired," he said, his eyes meeting her tearful gaze. "But you're on notice. Change starts with you. Own what you did, or you're out." Lauren's lips trembled, her voice barely audible. I was wrong," she said, wiping her eyes, her dress sagging. "I judged you, and I'm sorry. I'll do better, I promise." Johnny nodded, his voice warm. "That's a start," he said, his watch a vow in his pocket. "Prove it, Lauren. Not to me, to yourself." Mia stepped forward, her voice bold. "Can I help?" she said, her curly hair bouncing, her eyes bright. "I want Lumiere to be what you see. A place for everyone." Johnny's grin was genuine, his voice encouraging. "You're already helping, Mia," he said, clapping her shoulder. "Round up the staff after close. We've got work to do." Hours later, the dining room stood empty, the chandeliers dimmed, the staff gathered in a circle, their faces a mix of awe and reflection. Johnny stood at the center, his bandana loose, his voice steady, reflective. "Tonight wasn't about me," he said, pulling the child's drawing from his pocket, the crayon letters. "Thank you, Mr. Johnny," glowing under the light. "It's about the kid who drew this, the folks who walk in here feeling invisible. We've all got battles no one sees." He paused, his watch ticking, his voice deepening. Lumiere's meant to be a light, not a gatekeeper. Every guest, rich, poor, famous, unknown, deserves kindness. That's the standard. Mess up, learn, grow, but never stop seeing the person in front of you. The staff hung on his words, some nodding, others wiping tears. Lauren, at the back, clutched her apron, her voice soft. I never thought about it like that," she said, her eyes glistening. "I got caught up in the glamour. Forgot what matters. I'll change, Mr. Depp. For real." Johnny's smile was faint, his voice kind. "That's all I ask," he said, tucking the drawing away. "Kindness isn't flashy. It's in the small stuff. The choice to lift someone up." Harold, lingering as a guest, approached. His tweed jacket buttoned, his voice gruff. "You reminded me of my dad," he said, his blue eyes misty. "He ran a diner, treated everyone like family. You're doing him proud." Johnny clasped his hand, his voice warm. "Means a lot," he said, his watch ticking. "Let's make Lumiere the kind of place." Weeks later, Lumiere transformed. Johnny appointed Mia as interim manager, her passion guiding a retrained staff who greeted every guest with genuine warmth. Lauren, humbled, volunteered for extra shifts, her smile now earnest, her service a quiet atonement. The restaurant hosted a charity dinner for the Children's Hospital, Johnny's idea, raising funds for kids like the one who drew his picture. Guests, locals, travelers, stars filled the tables, their diversity a testament to Lumiere's new heart. One evening, Johnny returned, still in his faded jeans, the bandana swapped for a scarf. A young boy, his hospital bracelet peeking from his sleeve, ran up, his voice bright. "Mr. Johnny," he said, holding up a new drawing. "This is for you." Johnny knelt, his voice soft. "Look at that," he said, tracing the crayon lines. "A star over a glowing restaurant. You're my hero, kid." The dining room cheered, guests smiling, their glasses raised. Mia beamed, her voice proud. "You made this happen," she said, her uniform sharp, her confidence soaring. Johnny touched the watch, his voice a whisper. "For you, Gran." Lumiere wasn't just a restaurant, it was a beacon. A place where kindness outshone bias, where every soul was seen. Beverly Hills buzzed with its revival, the neon streets carrying its story far and wide. Johnny's stand had sparked a revolution, proving that true strength lies in lifting others, not tearing them down. Lauren's redemption, Victor's fall, and Mia's rise were lessons. Kindness transforms, judgment divides. The couple in suits returned, booking tables for friends. Harold became a regular, his stories a fixture. In one quiet moment, Johnny had rebuilt Lumiere on his grandmother's truth. Treat every heart with kindness, always. The chandeliers glowed, a testament to a man who walked in unseen but left a legacy that would shine for generations. The story of Johnny Depp and Lumiere Restaurant is a profound lesson in kindness, accountability, and the power of challenging prejudice. Johnny, disguised in worn clothes, exposed a culture of bias where Lauren judged guests by appearance, not worth. His pocket watch, engraved with kindness, symbolizes his grandmother's wisdom. Every person deserves respect, regardless of status. Johnny's calm defiance, culminating in revealing his identity as co-owner, teaches that true leadership confronts injustice head-on, not with anger but with principle. Lauren's redemption, sparked by Johnny's call for change, shows that mistakes can lead to growth when met with honesty. Mia's courage and Harold's support highlight how one person's stand inspires a community to rise. Lumiere's transformation into a haven for all, cemented by a charity gala, proves that empathy rebuilds what bias destroys. This tale urges us to reject snap judgments, act with compassion, and create spaces where every story is valued. It's a call to choose kindness daily, knowing small acts can reshape hearts and legacies. Did Johnny's story inspire you? Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more tales of compassion and justice. Hit the bell to catch the next unforgettable story.